Hi everyone, welcome to Jungle Girl Keeps It Real, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my all-time favourite plants, the variegated Alocasia, which I believe is Alocasia mycorrhiza variegata. Now I live in a wet tropical climate, so this is an easy garden plant, but in cooler climates it is commonly grown as a houseplant or seasonally through the spring and summer. Now variegation in plants occurs for different reasons, but in this case the variegation is known as CHIMERIC, which basically means that there is both green and white tissue occurring on the same plant, as you can see from these stems. You can see this little guy here is showing some nice variegation, but if we look at the rest of the plant, we can see that it has reverted back to the stable green. These plants don't really like being variegated, as the white tissue cannot photosynthesize. For this reason, variegated plants often need more feeding just to keep them along. Now that little guy I'm going to have to rescue. This is a typical example of what can happen if you turn your back on these plants for a few moments. The variegated plant has sent out a non-variegated plant, and you can see that it has much larger and much happier leaves. I get asked a lot how to propagate and grow these beauties. But it's a lot easier than you might think. Here is a clump I rediscovered after a weeding binge, and surprisingly it has maintained its variegation, so I'm going to use this to make more plants. Take a look at these beautiful trunks. These are the thick fleshy stem that supports the leaves, and they can grow quite large. These are the pieces from which we're going to propagate. There are healthy roots shooting down, and covering the trunk is a brown and flaky skin. Just heading up the trunk here. Now if you take a look here, you will see that this stem has a large amount of white tissue, which although very attractive is not necessarily going to give us the strongest plant due to the photosynthesis issues. But this trunk over here on the other hand is about 80% green. Now not what I'm going for either, so I think I will leave both of them in the ground for now and see if I can find something more suitable. So this guy, on the other hand, well, he's just about perfect. So I'm going to use him to propagate from. He has a nice, healthy trunk, free from disease, and you can see some of these beautiful new nodes that are just beginning to emerge through that flaky brown skin. Now, before we chop him up, I just want to show you the surrounding soil and all these mini plants that have just popped up. Each of these has actually come from a piece of the stem that has crumbled as it has aged. And you can actually pull these out and plant them up if you want to. This guy, well, he's not going to make it in the world. Often you get these plants that they are all green or all white, and this further shows you the complexity of chimeric variegation. The white leaf is probably still attached to the mother plant, but his future is lost. These white guys simply won't survive on their own. I'm taking a sharp knife, clean cut from the stem of the mother plant. There you go. You can see it's a nice clean flesh with no signs or rot or decay. So this is a really great piece to use for propagation. So here we are, ready to chop this root up. I'm going to remove the main growing stem with a few centimetres of the tuberous base and roots still attached. You may want to consider gloves for this, as the sap contains calcium oxalate crystals, which are called raphides, which are tiny needle structures that can cause irritation and pain. So I'm being very careful to limit my contact with the flesh. Another closer look at this tuber, and you can really see that this has a clean, disease-free flesh. If you were to see any brown or soft, mushy spots, you will need to chop them out. This growing point I'm going to plant out in the garden, but you could also pot it up. Back to our propagating piece, and you can see these nodes are ready to burst out. You could cut this root so that each piece has a node, but I have found even the pieces without nodes sprout easily. So I'm going to give this guy the chop. You want every piece to be about the same size as a 20-cent piece. This will ensure that the new plantlet has food from a small chunk of the starchy tuber to really get it growing. Every piece needs to have a portion of the brown flaky skin, as this is where the new plantlet will emerge. I've noticed this piece is a little brown and squishy, so I'm going to dispose of that. So there we have it, propagating pieces ready to go. So I have filled this plant tray with a nice peaty seed raising mix, well drained. It's only about 5 centimetres deep, but that's all you need. I'm going to take these pieces and place them with the fleshy white tuber beneath the soil and the flaky skin facing up. Don't worry about these existing brown roots, as our babies are growing to develop new roots. Once they're all put to bed, leave the tray in a warm, humid place and keep it on the dry side. Too much water and our little pieces will rot away. Fast forward 6 weeks and let's take a look at how our little pieces are getting on. The first thing you notice is that there are new shoots erupting from the soil, but if we take a closer look, you can see these healthy new roots that have been pushed out. This is a healthy, fat little shoot that has been feeding off the starchy base. On a closer examination, we also notice that this shoot has clear signs of the variegation we want to promote. Let's take a look at another piece. Wow, you can really see those healthy roots. Time to pot up our babies. The most important thing with alocasias is drainage, so I'm going to make a mix-up with that in mind. I have here a really good quality potting mix, but it's a bit too dense for these alocasias, so I'm going to add a few handfuls of perlite, roughly 2/3 potting mix to about 1/3 perlite. This here is controlled release fertiliser, and this will feed our plant for up to 6 months. Our mix has come together nicely, and you can see it is moist but still crumbly. I can't emphasise drainage enough with alocasias. I have here some coarse gravel that I'm going to put in the bottom quarter of my pot. I'm using a 15 centimetre pot, and I found that the bigger the pot, the bigger the alocasia will grow, so don't hold back. So just start to fill your pot with the mix. Leave a little space before you reach the top. You want to gently lay out the roots of your alocasia plantlet onto the fresh soil with enough depth so that the roots are covered but our shoot is emerging from the mix. You may need to play around with it. Gently cover the roots with the mix and firm down with the shoot just pointing out. Water in with some sea salt and you're good to go. A few months later, and this guy is really looking happy. Keep up the liquid feed and don't overwater. Thanks everyone for watching today, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel and let me know if you have any questions. You can also find me on Insta and Facebook. And remember folks, to keep it real.